What's going on, y'all? Straight to the point, sports and entertainment. Please hit the like button. Make sure you sub to the channel if you're not a member. And also hit them notifications so that you're able to get all of my content and all of my videos. Okay. I want to give a shout out to the whole entire Lions Den basketball as well as boxing community. And I also want to give a shout out to all of my subs that's been rocking with me, my day ones, and as well as my new subs, and as well as the people that want to cause destruction and try to dismantle this channel. The naysayers, both indirect and direct as well. Okay. I appreciate you very much. Do your best job to try to destroy me. Do your best job not to have faith in me. Do your best job to try to talk down, okay? Because that's what I love. I feed off of that negativity, okay? Now, before I get this video started, man, let me go ahead and give a shout out to the brother True Raw for TV once again. He was the first one to talk about this. If you're not subbed to the brother True Raw for TV, definitely go sub to his channel. One of the pillars in the LDBC community, top historian on YouTube, and just a great channel overall with its versatility, what he brings to the table too. Okay, no introduction needed for him. Now, I had to cook on this, and I had to give my $5 into this too as well. Okay. Austin Rivers, former Duke standout, right, and also retired NBA player. Pretty much had became a journeyman toward the end of his career. He basically came out on record and he said that if this was the 70s and the 80s, what's up with it, Mike? I see you in here, man. Long time, ain't see you in a minute. Still grinding out here regardless, okay? Salute to you all. He came on record and he basically stated that if this was the 70s or the 80s or, even the 90s, that he would be a top 10 player, okay? Now, I just finished talking about Robert Parrish, okay, and had to go ahead and, burst his bubble. But now I got to go ahead and burst another guy's bubble in Austin Rivers. Now, Austin Rivers, you and I both damn well know that this is not true, okay? You know how they talk about all this stuff about, if it wasn't for Giannis, his brother wouldn't be in the league. If it wasn't for, of course, LeBron James, Bronny James wouldn't be in the league. If it wasn't for, Mike Dunleavy, the Dunleavy son, he wouldn't be in the league, and so on and so forth. I could go on and on. Well, that's how a lot of people felt about you, okay? Because if we're being honest, okay, and of course Duke is my favorite school, right? Let's just be honest, man. You failed to meet expectations when you came into the league, okay? Now, Austin Rivers, man, coming out of high school, you was a standout. You know what I'm saying? You were projected to, be that guy coming out, 6'4" guy, they were comparing you to, some of the greats, what you could potentially be. And, coming out of Duke, they thought that you were going to go ahead and take over, especially when you were with the Pelicans. That didn't happen. You're sitting here saying that you would be a top 10. Well, Austin Rivers, man, in order for you to be a top 10 player, what that would mean is that you have to come in and make immediate impact. And part of that, making that immediate impact, is, guess what? You have to be in double figures. You hear me? Let me repeat it again. You have to average double figures in your career. Austin Rivers, you were never able to do that except for 2 seasons in which you had played with your daddy with the Clippers. Okay, well, one year you averaged 12 points, another year you averaged 15 points. That was about it. That was about it. Other than that, you never could get over 10 points. Okay, you never could get over 10 points. And the only thing that people actually honestly remembered you by is all the trash talking that you did. Now, were you a solid player? Yeah, you were a solid player. But let's not go here and act like you were a perennial all-star. Let's not act like you were a Hall of Famer. Let's not act like you were even a franchise player. You were none of that. But I tell you, the guys who was, what's up with the Cottage? I see you in the building. Make sure y'all go sub to the brother Cottage, okay? Salute to you, Cottage. Now, listen, Austin Rivers. Stay in your place, bro. It's just like what we had to tell about Robert Parrish, who is a champion, okay, who is a Hall of Famer, can't take nothing away from him, and who was an all-star, okay? Can't take anything away from him. But just like I told Robert Parrish, and just like I'm telling you now, you have to stay in your place. You pretty much was, a journeyman, you know what I'm saying? They saw you as a role player, and on top of that, you were coming off the bench too as well, okay? Now, I can name 2 guards right off the top of my head that were able to accomplish even getting well above double figures, and they weren't even considered, like Hall of Fame players or anything like that, but they just happened to be really good players. And I'm talking about during the time, at the time that you're talking about in the 80s and 90s, and one of them happened to be your damn daddy. Your daddy had came into the league. Now, Doc Rivers, coming out of Chicago, we talking about Atlanta Hawks, Doc Rivers, coming in, will yoke on you in a heartbeat, very explosive, decent point guard, great good floor general. He was able to average double figures for well over 5 seasons. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, about 7 to 8 seasons in which the great Doc Rivers was able to average over double figures. And we're not talking about 10, 11 points. We're talking about a solid 14, 15, 16 points, sometimes 17 points. Okay? Then on top of that, you're talking about you would be a top 10 player. Well, guess what? There were other guys in the league, okay, who weren't necessarily all-stars, but considered really good players. Guess what? Let's mention my man Spud Webb, right? Spud Webb, what's up with it, Ted? I'll see you in a bit. And that's what I am going to do, right? Spud Webb was able to accomplish that. He was able to accomplish at least 5 seasons in which he scored over double figures, right? And guess what? Spud Webb was nothing but 5'6", 5'7". And they know Spud Webb is. Some people consider Spud Webb, an all-star. Some people consider Spud Webb great, despite him not being in the Hall of Fame or anything. Just the fact alone that he's 5'7", being able to dunk on trees and go through the lane and get through trees. He was able to average double figures for more than 2 seasons, which you were. And the only thing that you were able to do was score about somewhere along the lines of 8 points a game. That was it. That is not top 10 worthy. That's not top 10 worthy. Shine, Nigeria, what's up with it, man? I see you in the building. If I'm pronouncing your name wrong, forgive me, man. You say Austin Rivers been a clown, just like his daddy. He always been hating on the Warriors because Curry sent his ass home in the playoffs. Well, I disagree with you. I disagree with you on that as far as his daddy being a clown. Doc Rivers isn't a clown. Doc Rivers actually averaged double figures in the league for more than 5 seasons, well over, I think, 6 or 7 seasons. Doc Rivers is a champion. Doc Rivers is a good coach and was able to wear 2 hats. Doc Rivers was that guy coming out of Chicago. Doc Rivers did hold up to his reputation. Now, he wasn't no Hall of Famer, wasn't any of that, but he was certainly better than Austin Rivers. So his daddy isn't a clown. I gotta disagree with you on that. But as far as Austin Rivers being a clown, yes, He is. If you're gonna run your mouth like that. And look, you've been doing pretty good with your media thing and everything like that. But let's hold your horses, okay? Just because you an analyst now, let's not forget that we didn't forget about you failing to meet expectation when you first came into the league. Okay. And look, man, I know it's hard for some people, to hear that. You know what I'm saying? People gonna disagree. They gonna log off because I don't say what they say. But it is what it is. Over here, you are gonna get a good dose of medicine, and you're gonna get the facts. Austin Rivers, stay in your place. In order for you to be a top 10 player, and let's just say a top 10 player just in the league alone, you have to be consistently getting to the playoffs and leading your team to the playoffs. You have to at least you have to be getting at least 20 points a game. Somewhere along the lines of 9 assists if you do play the point guard position. And then on top of that, you have to have a great impact on the floor. Hell, Drew Holiday, even though he might not be a 20-point a game scorer, at least they would take Drew Holiday before they take you. You know why? Because he makes or breaks a franchise in a lot of people's opinion, right? But y'all don't want to hear that. Y'all don't want to talk about anything like that. So I ask you right now, who would you rather have, Drew Holiday or Austin Rivers? And see, some people don't look at Drew Holiday as a top 10 scorer or as a top 10 player, right? I'm taking Drew Holiday all day because of what he brings to the table. If they're looking at you like that, then I would understand. But they're not looking at you like that, Austin Rivers. They would just look at you nothing more than a journeyman. So please, I say again, stop trying to jump on the train and ride the pine of all these guys that's pushing this narrative that the 80s, they could do this in the 80s, they could do this in the 90s, they could do this in the 70s and the 60s and all this other stuff. Just respect the game. Because I don't think you could be a top 50 player in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s. And we certainly know, you wasn't doing that, you know what I'm saying, in the 2010. Okay? Now, look, to close the casting on this, you said, is the NBA the only sport that this is the past era? Well, Cheyenne, it seems to be. It seems to be because I haven't heard this in the NFL. You don't hear guys coming out, like running backs, Hall of Fame running backs. You won't have a guy Derrick Henry saying, "Oh yeah, well we were better than Barry Sanders area." You don't hear guys in the MLB. You don't hear Aaron Judd coming saying, "Oh yeah, I was better than Barry Bonds," or I played better than Mark Aguirre's era. Or you don't hear Venus or Serena Williams saying that they were better than Arthur Ashe era, or Pete Sampras era, or somebody that came, or Steffi Graf's era, or something like that. Or you don't hear guys in racing. You don't hear Bubba Wallace saying, "Oh yeah, I was better than Rusty Garrett," or "I was better than this guy in racing," or something like that, and so on and so forth. You understand what I'm saying? You don't hear that. You said most fans think that Austin was a sympathy player because his dad coached and played in the league. Said that in the beginning, Chad. In the beginning of this. Like I said, it's the same sentiment as the Antetokounmpo brothers. He's keeping his mouth shut. It's the same thing with Bronny James, okay? Hey, you can say what you want. Bronny James keeping his mouth shut. I believe Bronny James will be a better player than Austin Rivers. If we really want to go there, I know it's going to strike some people the wrong way. But it's the truth, though. Austin Rivers, he's not being. He was being talked about that like in high school, and then once he came out there, and they figured out, early on with the Pelicans that he wasn't going to be nothing more than a couple games, 7 point, 8 point game scorer. After that, you know what I'm saying, they left him alone. Yeah, it's definitely a hot take. I believe Bronny James does have the potential. I mean, look what he's doing in the summer league. Look. Let me go ahead and make this, get off the subject for a second, right? Don't be amazed by that. Don't be surprised by that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're looking at all the transgressions and trials and tribulations that Bronny James going through, right, Ted? What kind of trials and tribulations have the media been able to put a guy like Austin Rivers through? What kind of scrutiny has he been faced with? What kind of pressure has he been under? What kind of people looking at him? No one. No one. So for Bronny James, it's going to be easy work by the time he gets a certain age. You looking at Bronny James as if he already 27 in his prime and stuff like that, man. When I look at Bronny James, I don't see no goddamn journey, man. Which is what Austin Rivers was. Yeah, he's the same dude that said that NBA players can play in the NFL. Now, to a certain degree, yeah, I believe that. I believe that there's some NFL players that could play in the NBA. Like I believe that T.O. Back in his prime, he'd have been a decent just spot up shooter or something in the league or whatever. I'm not saying he would be a superstar, but that's neither here nor there. I believe that Andre Johnson, who's getting ready to be in the Hall of Fame, he would have been a great NBA player. You know what I'm saying? And we all know what Anthony Edwards could do, and he played in football too. You said LeBron would definitely flop around the NFL field if he were to play. Nah, well, actually, and look, I know y'all don't like him and everything, and I know everybody, they feel some type of way about LeBron. LeBron was actually he played football, and he was a decent wide receiver in high school, just like Bubba Chuck was a good quarterback coming out of school when he played for Bethel, just like Nate Robinson was a good in football as well too. So you do have some guys in there that are able to make that transition between both. But when we're talking about when spinning the block, talking about Austin Rivers, he has never been under any of that type of pressure. So he wouldn't be able to handle any of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? They talked about you here and there, and they talked about you because you ran your mouth. You ran your mouth. That was it. And you're in the league because Doc Rivers is in the league. And he just so happened to take you up under the wing when he was with the Clippers or whatever. So therefore, you was grandfathered in. You know what I'm saying? So if we're gonna hold Bronny James and Antetokounmpo and Dunleavy and all these other guys that happen to so be in the league, the Holidays and everybody else whose siblings them been in the league or whatever, we got to hold your ass to the same standard. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna rinse you up, Cheyenne. You won me over a little bit, man. I was kind of disappointed that you said that what's his name was his father was a clown, but I rinse you up regardless. You know what I mean? But I don't know what today what's with today's players or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Look, I have an appreciation for all eras, okay, and I have to because I got family members that play and have played in different generations. I got family members that are playing right now in high school. I have family members that have played in college. I have family members that have played on a professional level, and they played in different eras or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I got older, younger. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, a lot of people that a lot of people feel the way that Robert Parrish feel about like Michael Jordan not being the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? And some of them happen to be in my family. I'm not surprised by what Robert Parrish has said, but it's just the way that you said it. Now, if he'd have said it like how my uncle, he feels like the reason why Jordan isn't the GOAT in his eyes is because he feel like if there wasn't no David Thompson, if there wasn't no Elgin Baylor, if there wasn't no Dr. J, if there wasn't, a guy like Connie Hawkins or something like that, then there wouldn't be no MJ because MJ had to learn it from somewhere. And he said he's seen other guys do much more creativity on the court than Jordan or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I could, I don't have to accept it, but I could agree to disagree with him. You said Shine Caps for his boy Steph and Draymond. Well, I mean, look, they they're champions, which is what Austin Rivers isn't. You know what I'm saying? You have a unanimous MVP, which is what Austin Rivers could only dream to be. Um, we don't even know who Austin Rivers' wife is. We know who Aisha Curry is. You know what I'm saying? Looking like a young Tisha Campbell in her prime. You know what I'm saying? Um, you've never been talked about as possibly being a GOAT. They have with Steph Curry. Uh, you have never ran a generation. They have with Steph Curry. You have never been talked about as changing the game. They have with Steph Curry, right? You have not stayed with one organization throughout the duration of your career. Go ahead, fill in that blank. Wait for it. They have with Steph Curry. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to come with all this logic talking about you a top 10 player, which Steph Curry was, you have to have at least got over a double figure. Steph Curry could get that in 1 quarter. He could get that in about 5 minutes. Hell, he could get that in about 50 seconds. These people here, man, you said that ain't true. I blame Steph and Draymond for that 2016 finals, despite the league screwing up. Well, no, we have to look at it. Steph Curry made some horrible decisions towards the end of that game. There were a couple of breakdowns in which they could have played better. If you go back and you go look at the last 3 minutes of that game or whatever, they were both tired. You could really see the fatigue and everything. LeBron had made some ill-advised decisions, and of course Curry had turned the ball over, if I'm not mistaken, at least 2 or 3 times. And then also they kept hoisting up shots that were unnecessary. You said, yeah, he was quiet. It was just a bad breakdown. But again, it doesn't take anything away from what they did. You said that behind the pack. Yeah, exactly, Shyam. You're right on point. That's one of the ones that I was talking about, as well as some other turnovers and stuff. I could see that still messes with you to this day, and I understand. It's kind of like, the whole situation that happened with J.R. Smith, where LeBron was up in there, trying to tell, J.R. Smith, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like those situations, you know what I'm saying? Or it's kind of like with Pete Carroll not giving the ball to beast mode, you know what I'm saying? Those situations, Now that we in football season, you said Clay's body language was off before Game 7. He even walked past there. Well, Klay Thompson, man. You have to understand that Klay is a competitor. Klay is a guy. He's a defensive minded as well as offensive minded. You understand? But look, guys. My final point is this: we have a lot of guys that are continuously coming in there trying to diminish not only the legacy of Michael Jordan, but they're trying to diminish the whole, I would say the whole era of the 2000s and below. A lot of people feel like, if it's below the 2000s going into the 90s and the 80s or whatever, you actually have people thinking that, the 80s and 90s look like black and white, as if this was Houdini and them playing, and Bob Cousy and, Paul Horizon and George Mikan and all them. And really, you can't slouch on them because you had to understand they had it even harder back then. Can you imagine working a construction job and then having to come in? Can you imagine, having to, serve the army full time where you're doing push-ups, sit-ups, running 2 miles a damn day on the concrete, and then coming and having to play on the concrete? I'm sorry about that, on a wooden floor from transition from the concrete and playing in Chuck Taylor tennis shoes. Can you imagine spraining your ankle in Chuck Taylors? No, you can't. But when you put it in that type of perspective, then it'll make you start thinking different. When you put it in a type of perspective of when they guys were literally trying to press you back in those days, it makes you think different. You don't see nobody running no press today. Shit, back in my days, my coach made me press. You had to press. That's why you couldn't get tired. That's why we were running, 6 suicides at minimum. Back to back. Wasn't no stopping on no suicides. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't stopping on no baseline to baselines. You know what I'm saying? And if you got tired, nigga, man, he gonna tell your ass to get the man. You better not in tryouts. You better not even look like you tired. What they gonna do? A coach is gonna come right by you. He gonna whisper in your ear, and he's gonna be like, "Look, son, we don't think that this game is for you. If you're sitting there with your hands on your knees, huffing and puffing and all this other stuff, listen. That's why you gotta be in shape." You know what I'm saying? Everybody talking about, oh yeah, man, I could have played in that era. No, you couldn't have. Not with a Michael Jordan who's running back and forth nonstop, playing both ends of the floor. No, you couldn't have. Not with a Kobe Bryant who's playing both ends of the floor. No, you couldn't have. Not with a Wilt Chamberlain, 7 foot tall, being able to go coast to coast or whatever, block your shot or whatever, then get the same ball that he got from blocking your shot, take it coast to coast, and then come and do that over like 5 different possessions nonstop. No, you couldn't have. Hell, some of y'all that be talking all this stuff on the air or whatever, y'all wouldn't have been able to last within the first 5 minutes of how physical it was. You know what I'm saying? You going through the lane or whatever, you know what I'm saying, with Mick Filthy and Mick Nasty or whatever, and they throwing you to the floor and you land on your elbow or whatever, they're going to look at you and laugh. Some of them are just going to go ahead and step on you and just run right over you. The Detroit Pistons, the Boston Celtics, stuff like that. Man, there was no mercy there. You getting clotheslined by, like Kevin McHale did Kurt Rambis and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? WWF or whatever. Y'all wouldn't have been able to handle that. Oh, yeah, I could do this and I could do that. Yeah, right. You think you're going to just come right in on the Dikembe Mutombo who lives at the rim? Doesn't matter if he get dunked on? No, no, no. Nah, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to do it. Yeah, wall sits. We could take it to wall sits. We could take it to bear crawls. We could take it to rolling. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me started on football. Hell, man, shit. Man, nigga, you come through the middle in that era. Come through a middle with James Harrison. Come through a middle with LT. Yeah. LT on the coke. Yeah. Come in there with Bruce Smith. Come try to think that you gonna come in there and just it's gonna be good with it's gonna be easy to run through that gap and see if a helmet don't come right flying across your face. Yeah, man, everybody be talking about, oh man, yeah, man, I could play in that era. Oh, I dominate and all this other stuff. Man, nigga, you sleeping. This is not 2K. They ain't had no 2K ratings. Your 2K was you get your ass out on the parquet. Your 2K is you get out on the parquet, and I'm talking about that parquet floor on that Boston Celtics, with the Boston Garden. And all that trash that they talking about this era could survive and all this other stuff. You take the weakest guy from the different era, they probably do it. Like a Spud Webb.